So, Givenchy is in the news again. I don't know, it seems like regular old school fashion people are not big fans of Matthew M. Williams, the creative director for Givenchy. They have not been happy since he got appointed there, and he gets a lot of criticism, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, but this is a very interesting one. So yes, Givenchy is in the news again, not for potato clogs this time, which is a real bummer. I liked it when the thing that Givenchy was getting all this press for was spiky clogs, but no, this time it's for something quite a bit more serious than the potato clogs, okay? Because this time, Givenchy is under fire for racism found in their jewelry from their latest spring 2022 show. Like, how can jewelry be racist? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna talk about it. So, why are people so upset? Was this jewelry actually racist? Let's talk it out. But first, I've looked into it, and a very, very small percentage of you are actually subscribed to the channel. It's completely free. Just press that button, and you will not regret it. Thank you so much. All right, let's cut right to the chase here. Let's just speed this up. Let's just get right to the good stuff, okay? Givenchy made necklaces in the shape of a noose. Diet Prada, the Instagram fashion watchdog account, they called it out. They were like, what the hell are you thinking? Why on earth would you do this? And subsequently, it was also criticized by suicide prevention professionals and lots of news articles, stuff like that. And I would say that one of these claims has more merit than the other, because simply depicting a method of suicide, I don't think can be claimed to be like unacceptably offensive. And up front here, I just want to give a bit of like a trigger warning. I don't want to make anyone upset or feel wronged or offended in any way. So if you're not into hearing about racial issues or issues related to self-harm, I would maybe step away from this one, but definitely still subscribe to the channel because, you know, that's not all I talk about, you know? So moving on, let's look at the most common methods of self-harm. You've got firearms, suffocation, poisoning. I think we can knock all of these down pretty quick and show how they are continuously used within the fashion industry as these motifs really without issue. So pills, overdoses, poisoning, right? These are super popular in graphics and streetwear. Palace has done pieces with pills on them. Supreme, even Moschino, if you want to talk about luxury clothing, like Moschino is like not an offensive brand. Well, Jeremy Scott can be kind of, scratch that. Let's move on to firearms. Like, don't even get me started here. Prada, the kind of quirkiest of brands, inoffensive brands, they have gun prints. Even Gucci, like the softest of soft boy, like 70s retro brands, has put guns on their pieces. And I think the closest comparison to this noose here is probably a razor blade. And Saint Laurent has used razor blade imagery, even Givenchy themselves very recently, without really much to do about it. People were not talking about any of those instances or saying they were promoting suicide or anything like that. So are all of those things shocking? Yes, many of them intentionally so. But fashion is an art form. A commercial art form, like people be making a bank off it, but it is an art nonetheless. And just like we depict horrible things in other types of art, especially like film, stuff like that, literature, you've got murder, addiction, and yes, self-harm, but we have to give some leeway here. So the concept itself is excusable, I think. The real question is how tactfully it's done. And that's the real problem here, because Matthew M. Williams, the creative director at Givenchy, is kind of like as tactless as it gets. And don't get me wrong, I have actually generally been loving his stuff since he started at Givenchy. It looks really cool. It's very much up my alley. It's got this kind of like dark, brooding aesthetic. But for Matthew M. Williams, his like driving creative point of view is kind of like that Will Ferrell quote from Blades of Glory. No one knows what it means, but it's provocative, right? That's like Matthew M. Williams' whole raison d'etre right there in that quote. And that brings us to the real issue here, the racial and potentially racist connotations of including a noose in this collection. A lot of the time, when stuff like this happens, it's tone-deaf, clueless European designers that are doing it. And like, I don't know, look at D Squared or Dolce & Gabbana. Don't get me started on Dolce & Gabbana. I got a video about it. Go look it up. But while that doesn't excuse it, the fact that they're European, it does like help explain it in a way. Like actually Burberry, very recently, just in 2019, actually got themselves embroiled in a nearly identical noose controversy. Like, which makes it even stupider that Givenchy did this. Like, guys, this just happened. They don't learn from each other. Why don't they learn from each other? But anyway, the creative director of Burberry, Riccardo Tisci, is Italian. So he had some like PR spin cover for himself by being able to say that he wasn't aware of the racial context or the history of like lynchings in the United States. Not that that's like the only place they ever happen, but a lot of Europeans think of racism as like a US exclusive thing, which is mind-blowing, but that's just kind of how it is. But anyway, back to Givenchy. Matthew M. Williams is kind of like just like a bumbling American bro dude, at least so it seems. So his only possible excuse here is either ignorance or indifference to racial issues. And neither of those look good for him. Like neither of those are good looks in any way, shape, or form. So do I think the guy is an actual malicious racist? No, of course not. But that doesn't mean the use of the noose isn't. So how can something be racist without racist intent? Well, it's because intent might not matter at all. That's right, friends. We're about to get theoretical here. Professor Low Luxury is on the case. So if you're a postmodernist like Virgil Abloh of Off-White and Louis Vuitton, and you should be a postmodernist like him, you might subscribe to the belief that meaning comes from the audience, not the creator. Throughout most of history, when art was created, people interpreted that art through the lens of the creator. They would look at the piece and maybe ask the creator what the work meant, and they took that meaning as fact. But I say no, the creator does not matter at all. What matters is how the audience interprets it. In academia, this is called reader response theory. It de-emphasizes the intent of the creator and instead focuses on what the audience interprets its meaning as. So how does that apply here? You're just watching this, you're like, I don't want your stupid theories, I don't want to go back to school, I left that behind. How does it apply here? Well, it means that this jewelry could still be racist even if Matthew M. Williams had no racist intent whatsoever. If you look at the Diet Prada post and these stories written about the nooses, you'll see that people are definitely interpreting this through a racial lens. But what if you don't? What if you think they're cool and not racialized in any way? Well, that's where it gets interesting. When you're talking about an audience interpretation, does that audience mean you personally or the audience as a whole? I think that's up to you to decide. So with that, as an audience of one, where do I stand on this? And whose interpretation am I following here? Well, at the risk of dodging the question, I don't think I'm the right person to say. I'm a cis white dude. I'm racially aware to some degree. Like, I'm kind of woke, I know what's going on. But I don't think I have any right to tell people of color whether they should or shouldn't be offended by this Givenchy jewelry. And judging by the social media reaction, people of color clearly are having a visceral negative response in this case. But with that being said, I will give my own take. In a vacuum, I don't think these are racist. They're edgy in that Hot Topic Donnie Darko kind of way, which is like kind of cringe in its own right, but nothing exists in a vacuum. Because I have to play this out in my mind. Like, what happens if I buy one of these pieces of jewelry and wear it out in the world? I would be, again, a cis white dude wearing a noose around my neck. My fear would be that A, that a real racist would see me and potentially think I'm like a kindred spirit with them, or B, make people of color very uncomfortable or even fearful for their safety. And I do not think my right to be dripping in heat, right, is more important than other people's sense of safety. So to sum up all of this, I don't think the piece is intentionally racist, but that doesn't matter. So listen to people of color on this stuff and don't be a dick. all of that advice applies times 100 to Matthew M. Williams himself. Get it together, Maddie, please.